Hi, I'm Ralph Preston, and welcome to another Stroke Buddy Stroke Survivor Support Group meeting. And today we have my friend, our friend, author, yoga teacher, and stroke survivor, Rachel Jarmusz. And Rachel's going to talk a little bit about her book and her trip to India and her quest to train as many stroke yoga teachers as possible. But first, we're going to start off with a little meditation and breathing. So, Rachel, glad to have you here, and take it away.
Okay, so like I was saying, make sure wherever you're sitting, you're just somewhere comfortable. It doesn't have to be anything crazy like, you're all set up to meditate, but make sure if you can that the spine is flat, right? So if you're up against something, kind of press your back up against it. Make sure that the spine is flat and close your eyes for a moment and take a breath into the shoulders. Just notice a slight dropping down of the shoulders from the ears. If I could get the sentence out. Take your chin a little bit slightly towards your chest, lengthening through the back of the head. Feel the back of the neck get really long, and notice the space between the shoulder blades. Breathe there, and just stay there. Just stay there for a moment. Slowly pick the head up and come back to where you started, just with the regular posture. And we're gonna just stay here. If you're not comfortable closing the eyes, you can always look like slightly down and away from you. There's a distraction though that happens with the eyes, right? You notice it when your eyes are open. And now if you're seated in a chair or like on the sofa, come on to the edge of whatever you're sitting on. And we'll just do a nice big round of breath here. Inhaling, lifting the shoulders best as we can. Remember, it doesn't really matter if it actually happens. It's more of like the intention behind it. So we're like, let the exhale come out of your mouth and let the inhale be really firm from the nose, right? So we're definitely like looking at each other, paying too much attention to how crazy we look, but we're inhaling through the nose, lifting through the shoulders, lifting through really not even the shoulders, but through the sternum, through the center of the chest is rising up with that in breath. And then it's a out, right? And then just let your body settle back into itself, really. It's like you're coming online. And you can open your eyes when you're ready, and then we can have a little chat. It's nice to just start really anything that you're doing with a moment like that, because it really helps to just like, bring you into the moment, take you out of the all the stuff up here. Really is nodding like, yes, living in that rapid thought stroke brain, kind of anxious and annoying. And so if you take these little moments just before we chat, or before, you get out of your car, before you go to an appointment, whatever, it's just as a helpful thing. So I like to do it personally. So I like to do it when I do these kinds of chats, just to bring us all in, right?
Get rid of that monkey brain.
The monkey brain, it's the right here on your shoulder, annoying. And yeah. So then we come. Yes, go ahead, please, Bro.
Oh, I was just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about Subtle Stroke, your book, and why you wrote it, and a little bit about the theme.
A copy of it. So it is here, and the artwork is just really neat on it. So I like to kind of show it off. Yeah, so I
for everybody here and everybody watching on YouTube, I'll post links to Rachel's website. That's the spiral version you can get from her, and it also Amazon link, and they'll both be in the description underneath this video. So just get that out of the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I kind of have been writing this book for like something like 10 years, maybe 8 or 10 years, of just having a lot to say, right? And then it kind of turned into I want to learn about yoga. I want to learn yoga for myself, but I don't want to have to pay a crazy fee to do a yoga teacher training and actually become a teacher, a certified teacher. I just want to know yoga for myself. And so that's kind of the standpoint in which I wrote the book from, somebody reading it that is curious, but not fully committed to wanting to be a teacher, because the teacher training is like $1,000. You're committed for like a year or 6 months. This is like a little taste of yoga, because we all know that yoga is so much more than just, I want to just go stretch. I'm going to just go stretch. I'm just going to do my stretches, do my warrior poses, and get, cute in my yoga clothes and get fit. Like that's what our culture has turned yoga into. And it's just none of those things. It's none of those things. And when you talk about spasticity and brain fog and things like us stroke survivors are really like in the thick of dealing with every day, how do you manage this stuff without being like bombarded with medicine, surgery, and doctors, which quite frankly are sort of negative towards what we're going through? Like, oh, you'll never really regain that, or you might as well stop, or whatever stories I've heard from people with doctors saying things. And so this book is kind of like a different way in, right? It's not your standard path that people tell you to go the mainstream route. This is different. This is different stuff. What we did in the beginning is your Jalandhara mudra. So when you take your chin down towards your chest, you are activating a bandha, which is a throat lock, right? You have a lock here. You have a lock at the center of your abdomen here, where your solar plexus is, and you have a lock in your pelvis. Now these bandhas are really, somebody say something?
I don't think so.
The bandhas are really cool because I kind of think that they're the key to like unlocking spasticity and getting the body into a place of better balance after a stroke, and just kind of getting that brain fog cleared a bit, right? So what we did was we drew the chin towards the chest and just breathe. And that's it, right? You can add in activating the belly by just tightening through the belly. And then you can add in the pelvic floor. anyways, this is all stuff that is in the book that is a very cool explanation of these very ancient traditions that somehow we're like ignoring. Like we can't continue to just ignore that there's this whole other world of stuff that people are dabbling into one by one, kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a Tai Chi class. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, we see more of that today, which is amazing. But this is about, this book is really about bringing stroke survivors into a place of wanting to be yoga teachers eventually, and giving back in that way, teaching to other stroke survivors. Because here's the thing is that why don't stroke survivors do yoga on a regular basis? Why don't they think that it's a valuable therapeutic tool that they can use? Well, I mean, there's like a lot of answers to that. Ralph, what would you say?
I think most of people are afraid they can't do it. And
Okay.
and that's at least been the theory I've been operating on, because I've seen some of that in terms of, with exposing them to you or you to them and trying to bring yoga to people, like when we did your first classes, I went and got a pretzel and said, no, you don't have to tie yourself up in a knot like a pretzel, because people are laboring under a misconception that, they see people doing complex yoga moves and they don't really understand adaptive stroke, chair, whatever, yoga. Um, and
Anybody else have a something that they want to contribute to that question?
what
The question of just why don't more stroke survivors do yoga or see yoga as a therapeutic tool to help,
they have no easy way and they're scared of it.
Well, I think if I could just interrupt, it might not necessarily be they're scared of it, but there might be an absence or a known demonstration of reliable therapeutic results from it.
Okay.
okay. So misinformation in terms of the helpful benefits of it, basically.
Well, I'm a scientist, so I generally look at published results in scientific journals, and I now there may be published things out there. I am not aware of them.
We'll send you one.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually have a new one that I'm going to send you to, Ralph, that just came out of the University of Colorado here where I live. And so I'm kind of like looking to partner with these guys in terms of like they're doing the research, I'm doing the teaching and the talking to actual stroke survivors. So if we can like link some sort of a system that gets a stroke survivor access to this right out the gate, right after they have a stroke, right? Because we all know that research shows the quicker that you start to act, that stupid act fast thingy that I don't think really even addresses the major symptoms that we actually have when we present a stroke. But that's the research-based stuff that we have that I think is not helpful, based on the meeting people and doing yoga with somebody and seeing that one session can improve energy levels, improve sleep, reduce spasticity, reduce brain fog. These are real things that we're seeing, that for something that virtually costs nothing, other than paying a yoga teacher, which yoga instructors, good yoga instructors, don't hardly charge anything for what they do. It's a very undercharged profession. So if you're thinking like, oh, I can't afford it, Find a good yoga instructor, and more than likely they'll do it for free if you're committed to the process and you're showing up, because that's how the industry is. We're doing this because we really truly believe that this is helpful. We're not doing this to like make millions. My theory is that stroke survivors don't do yoga because there are no stroke survivors that teach yoga. And I didn't even come up with that theory. It was some other interview that I did that was what the interviewer said. And I was like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to use that, because I think that that's more of the reason, is that you're not going to go to some 20-year-old that's teaching yoga at some studio right down the street from your house that's like just perfect, and she's going to be able to relate to you in your body with a million different things going on. No, like, you're not going to go. You're going to say, I can't do that, or that's not for me, or I can't afford it, or whatever. And I'm trying to change that. What would you call it? That temperature within the yoga community, and bring in stroke survivors, disabled folks, people that you wouldn't normally see teaching a yoga class, maybe a 70-year-old man, you know, a well-seasoned, experienced person that can really teach yoga from a place of knowing that it helps your body, and from that kind of therapeutic entryway. Because the yoga community is funny, because they debate each other all the time. Like, they'll say, okay, you're a yoga teacher, but you can't say that you're doing therapy. You can't say that you're healing. You can't say that your classes are associated to medical conditions. But if you have a medical condition and you're doing yoga, you can teach from that perspective, but just don't say that you're healing people, because that's like taboo. So I have to be very aware of that, and always say that, like, I'm not a yoga therapist. I have not decided to go into that route, because I don't really think that it's my thing. But that is a whole nother industry that they're trying to bring yoga into hospitals. That if you went to see a doctor for a migraine, they would prescribe you yoga therapy with a yoga instructor that works at the hospital. But migraine is the only condition, medical condition, that is covered by yoga therapy. So we're dealing with that people have told me that by the time they get to the brain and stroke and TBI and different disorders within the brain, it will be probably 10 years out from now when they finally get this into the hospital system and get it, you know, pretty much standard, that you have a stroke, you get a yoga therapist. They're on it. They're putting that in your prescription file so that you're getting therapy. But see, that's going to be a long time coming. So I'm kind of like, in the meantime, what can I do? I can teach as much as I can, try to educate as many people as teachers as I can, and get the studies circulating so that we can see that the research does actually exist. It's coming slowly out, and we really are the research. Anybody that has taken a yoga class with me is a part of this research, and bringing this to the forefront of how this helps. I hear from different people different little things that, you know, oh, itchiness is a very common nerve symptom that starts to happen after you're doing some of these breathing exercises, and like the stretching with it, and then the kind of introspection, the sitting, and again, this is stuff that is in the book, all the 8 limbs, what I'm talking about, how yoga is more than just downward dog. It's more than just a physical practice. a lot of times stroke survivors kind of come to me and they say like, I'm just tired of the going to the doctor, the same spiel. I feel like I want more, and I feel like one lady just said to me, she just said that she felt like she was transitioning kind of into a different person since having her stroke, but she really didn't know how to get there, and she felt like spirituality was something that she was missing in her life, and something that she wanted to be integrated into her healing path, not just going to see a doctor, not just going to get, okay, sit down, talk to them, here's your prescriptions, here's your da 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 da. No, she wanted something that was like, you know, more of that inner connection, that place. And of course I was like, well, yoga. Like, and she was like, oh yeah, I did yoga prior to my stroke. You know, I always used it as an exercise. It was always something that I did, you know, to stay thin and fit. And I was like, well, now we're going to take a different approach to yoga and go back into a different place of what yoga really is, because it's not an exercise. It's not to get fit, to get thin, to look cute, to it's just such a deeper practice of coming into yourself. And really what I go into the book is how kind of like stroke and yoga are like, they were like made for each other. I can't express this enough. And I know I probably sound annoying to some people talking about this again and again and again. But the point is that until stroke survivors right out of the hospital have access, and possibly within the hospital have access to these tools, I'm not going to shut up. So you're going to have to hear me blabber about all this stuff until then, because it's really unfortunate. And it's something that I think about myself. I think about, had I had somebody talking to me about this kind of stuff, talking to me about alignment in the spine. Spasticity is all about how you're carrying your spine and breathing into the spine and getting everything, all of your energy systems moving and flowing. And that's your nerves, right? That's your nerves. So of course, after you have a stroke, and I was paralyzed and basically have such severe nerve damage to my brain for this left hand that they didn't even think I would ever be able to move from the elbow down, because I have like Wallerian degeneration or something. It's like I guess it's like bad. I don't know. But it's basically what's keeping my hand from fully functioning. But the fact that I'm able to actually use this arm and bring this arm into a functional place and actually be able to like I can hold stuff, which is really functional and just important. That I don't know what that is, but it comes on. Somebody told me Apple does that when you say something positive. It's
new to me also. I'll say a couple things real quick. And that would be, if you get me the new Colorado study and the other study, I'll also put them underneath this, and I'll get them to Dr. Hetzler. And while I know it's not scientific, I've been doing yoga about 3.5 years, and I've found it has helped me a lot in terms of maintaining or gaining more flexibility. Posture, most definitely. Posture is something that once I got better a lot in movement, I became concerned with posture because I didn't feel I was holding myself right, and yoga's helped a lot with that. It's also, as I moved from the chair to sitting in the chair to the holding on to the back of the chair to pushing the chair away, it's helped a lot with my balance. So that's just unscientific, but
is well, but balance is the first study. That first study that I sent you is a balance study. They decided to go in through, because I get it. It's a lot of like, how are you going to explain that the nerves and the breath are connected without going so far into this world that medicine cannot possibly explain? So they started with balance. It's balance, it's post-stroke, it's a post-stroke balance study is what it is. And it was out of like, I think Indianapolis or something, university, some little Midwest town. But it basically showed that anybody that has experienced a TBI, concussion, stroke, brain injury, that does yoga is going to improve your balance. It's going to not only improve your balance, but it's also going to improve the other things that you're doing. So it was like people that were going to therapy, PT, OT, and doing yoga. And what they found was not only did it improve their balance, no duh, we know this. We know that it's going to, but that's what the study proved. It also enhanced the other stuff that they were doing. So it makes you more present in everything that you're doing. It does not like negatively affect anything. That's why I feel like kind of like research or no research, what is it gonna hurt to try? Oh my God, you're gonna try it and you're gonna move and you're gonna feel better. And then you're gonna, well, like, what's the downside? I guess feeling like false hope or putting your time into something that you might potentially be embarrassed doing, because I mean, as we learned yesterday, Ralph, you're kind of like you're just kind of moving into different positions.
I don't get embarrassed, as you saw yesterday. I'll try anything.
But that's the thing. I think for a lot of people, sometimes it's like body stuff that like you don't want to be fully like exposing yourself like that and be embarrassed. And that's why having stroke survivors that teach yoga is so important, because they're going to be the ones that understand what it's like to feel in that body. You need somebody to be able to understand what it's like to be in your body. If someone says to place both of your palms on the mat and step back, shit, I don't have two fucking palms. What am I going to do? Now I'm embarrassed. Now I'm feeling like I can't do it. And so having a teacher that has the awareness of like placing the body parts that you can touch on the mat and stepping back, that kind of language is important, so that we speak to people like in the way that they can understand us, and not in a way that's going to make it like off-putting, push people away. Although I will say that talking a bit about India, I just got back from doing a 300-hour yoga training. So I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor with the Yoga Alliance now. And I kind of went to India with this dream of doing yoga in the motherland birthplace. And it was going to be so just warm and lovely and wonderful. If you know me, I kind of talk trash about American yoga and say that it's like too athletic based and not enough of the spiritual stuff. And I was going to go to India and get this wonderfully spiritual experience, and that really didn't happen. They're very serious about their yoga there. And coming back, I've had to process like, I need to up my game a little bit in terms of what I'm doing and what the body is actually capable of, the physical body, because the whole approach to yoga in India is that the physical body is like the way in. We have this body kind of by default being spiritual beings in this earth, right? Walking this earth. And so this body is kind of like what we carry around with us, kind of having this human experience. And using that body to facilitate spiritual awareness and to connect with the divine is what they take very seriously. So you're in a class in India, you will get scolded for not paying attention. You're not looking there, participating, you're getting called out. It's very like off-putting. You're not participating in class, you get asked to leave. You don't show up on time, the door is shut. It's like legit, like I've actually heard since coming back that people have been kicked or hit at the back of the head, different kinds of things going into, I see that there's some messages here, once again. So it was not the warm, loving reception that I thought I was going to get in this spiritual kind of motherland. What I realized is that you can be both strict and loving, and their approach is very much like that stern parent, you know. Like Americans, now I see that like we take yoga very lightly. They're very much like, okay, this is a practice where they don't even take a day off. You're there. I was there for 4 weeks doing the program, and you don't get a day off. Like you're doing it Saturday and Sunday. You're like, you don't get a rest day. Like, what is that? What, you don't need that. And I think it's kind of cool that they take that approach, because it is not to be mean. You know, I think that's what I thought for the first few days. I was very homesick and very not liking the energy that I was getting, because it was very cold and not friendly, and I wanted to come home. And then I started to realize that like it was a very loving energy, in fact, that they were holding for all of us to participate in this. And it was based on the belief that the body is very freaking capable of doing some really cool shit. And we limit ourselves because of our minds and because of this chatter and because of all this stuff going on that we've been kind of programmed to think we can't, we shouldn't, wouldn't be right. There's no research behind it. Nobody's doing it. Nobody cares. Whatever message is going through your head, whatever it is, we all have our thing that we go to. It's kind of like stepping out of all of that and just being in your body. Just being in your body. Just it's the simplest yet most complicated thing that you could ever do, really. And India really highly recommend. I would say to anybody that can go, it's cheap. The travel is the biggest pain in the ass because it takes so long to get there. That threw me off for a while, but like, go and experience that, because it really, I feel like it changed my life, quite frankly. And I'm still processing things that happen that I'm like, oh, okay. Now I can see that in a different like light, kind of, and like process that like they do take yoga very seriously, and I need to up my game a little bit and do a little bit more physically, because like they didn't see me as a stroke survivor. I was the only stroke survivor that they had ever probably met. And the guru man that runs the school said that he kind of chuckled, and he was a very, once I got to know him, he was a very warm man. He just had a kind of cold energy to begin with. But he said that you're a very strange American. Most people, when they have a serious injury of the brain or of the spinal cord, they go to the United States for medical treatment. The United States has the most advanced medical system in the world. They go there and they get treatment, and you've been there and you're coming here. And he was just like, we don't really know what. And I said, well, but it's the medicine that I don't want. So I want the perspective of the spiritual, whatever, whatever. And he really, honestly, they didn't really know how to take me. They really were kind of just like, let's just leave this girl alone and just let her do her thing, because they didn't know in terms of adaptations. The teacher finally got to the point with me where he just said, do whatever you feel is best for your body. You're a good teacher. You know what you're doing. You're very intelligent in the way that you're moving and how you're placing yourself. Do what you feel is best. Because I kept asking him, well, what should I do? I can't do that. You know, he's teaching like locust pose or some crazy scorpion, which is like arm balance. Like, it's just a crazy pose. And these 20-year-olds that are with me in the course are like all doing it. And I'm like, okay, what should I do? And he just got to the point where he was just like, just do whatever you want to do. You know what you're doing. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. And so I felt like that was kind of like respect. Like there was a mutual respect that they had for me, that I was just kind of like figuring it out. You don't really know what you're doing. There's no like, do this. I just offer, as Ralph found out yesterday, I just offer kind of different insights to doing poses that may specifically help certain muscle groups of a stroke survivor, because they're very succinct patterns. Even though every stroke is so different, they're very similar muscle groups that for whatever reason are affected. And so we have to look at I kind of go into a little bit of that in the book, just the areas of vulnerability and how you can kind of keep an eye on them. And just, I mean, the warrior positions themselves are very, talk about intelligent. Yoga is like one of the most intelligent systems, really, of postures, poses, breath work, inner analysis, meditation, concentration, all of these things in one practice that you can kind of get in like an hour, 2 hours, however long you want. It's up to you to commit. You can also do it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. What we did at the beginning was technically yoga. That's, I separated out in terms of like, okay, technically we were meditating, right? Yoga, asana, poses, postures, moving, sun salutations, all the things you see people doing movement wise is a meditation in motion. So we're again using the body as a tool to facilitate this heightened mental awareness, really, because yoga is all about the mind, all about, anyways, so that
Well, you were there. It's my understanding you were there on a mission to get your RYT 500 so you could teach, so you could train people in stroke yoga. You want to talk a little bit about
sure,
how India played into that and what your future plans are towards generating more yoga teachers who are stroke survivors?
Sure. So yeah, I started with my RYT 200, which is where anybody starts as a yoga instructor. If you're really curious about this kind of stuff and want to go into like the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, really read some of the like rich spiritual texts, 200-hour RYT. But like I said, buy the book, because that's like a preface to all of that if you want just a little sampling of that. So I had my 200-hour, right? There's not much that you can do with that other than teach as a certified teacher. And that's about it. You have the information for yourself. And So naturally, I wanted more because I wanted to do workshops that could potentially train PTs, OTs, even personal trainers, people that are looking to do courses that will give them CEU credits. How can I do that? Well, I could have gotten my master's degree in yoga therapy in India, or gotten my master's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in teaching. So if I would have gotten my master's degree in education, elementary education, I could have done that. Or I get my 300-hour yoga certification, which then added to my 200-hour makes me a 500-hour teacher, which according to the Yoga Alliance can do whatever the heck you want. You can open a school, you can start teaching workshops, classes that are all accredited, and just really get, like, they want you to get out there. Like they want, I just talked to somebody over there and was asking them about the teacher training. And she was like, you have so many certifications, you should just be teaching. Just go teach what you want to teach. So that's why I went to India, because I was like, you can do these trainings online. I could have done it in my community, probably over the course of a year. And that would have been great. I could have done that. I could have gone and did the yoga therapy program, which I considered. But to me, I had to go to India. I had to see it for myself, and to see, just I had to. And I've been talking about it for a while. People that know me know that I've been saying I was going to go for like years. And I just finally got the courage and was like, I'm going to go do it, knock that out. And then, yeah, come on back and write the 200-hour teacher training, get some workshops going. Right now, I'm trying to get back into the community because COVID really pushed me out. And I haven't quite gotten back into like doing the community circuit just where I live, in stroke support groups and talking to people. But like, I'm trying to like more streamline that and get, because the idea is that, yeah, people do little sprinklings of yoga. There's yoga classes offered sometimes in PT centers. That's where I actually did my first yoga class, was in a PT setting, that they just had a gym and had a yoga class. And I think that's great. Obviously, I'm acknowledging that there are places that do this, but here's the thing, is that it needs to be a more permanent fixture in a stroke survivor's recovery path. It just does. And I'm not negotiating on that at all. It shouldn't be a maybe there's a class at the PT center, or maybe I did it for a few months. No, it should be, I was offered this. You choose to take it or not, but it needs to be available. That's my hard, like, go for stroke yoga. Actually, like stroke yoga, just a program, stroke yoga, that is specifically tailored to stroke survivors. Yoga in all sectors of society. We're talking about your local YMCA, your PT centers, your inpatient rehab. There is a man that I work with that is in India, and they are studying yoga inpatient. He goes to some institute of science or something in Delhi, and his job right now currently is to go into 4 local hospitals in India and distribute a certain regime of yoga to them. And I'll tell you what, it's funny because he's having the same issue I'm having. Is out of 300 people in these hospitals. Now, keep in mind, there are like over 7 million stroke survivors in the United States. 7 million. That's a lot of fucking people. Okay, that's not like 100,000, 500,000. That's 7 million. That's a lot of people. So he went into 4 different hospitals, interviewed 300 stroke survivors. 30 of them signed up to take his yoga class. He's like got a doctorate in yoga sciences from this school in Delhi. These people are getting offered these services for free. They're in the hospital. 30 people sign up. The day of the class comes and 2 people come. This is what we're dealing with at the research level. This is why there's no research. This is why we don't have the studies, is because people are not showing up thinking that this is something. But you know what happens? The cool thing that happens in situations like this is those 2 people that showed up fell in love with it and are like yogis like for life. Like the one guy he was saying was like amazing. He was like doing headstands within the second session and like just progressing so wonderfully, and his wife was like so grateful. So even though there's very few people that are willing to try this, the results are like mind-blowing. Like you see the things that are changing in people's lives and you go like, well, why aren't all 7 million people doing this?
Don't you have some plans to change this whole paradigm and train stroke survivors as yoga teachers? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
This is the plan. Well, this is the plan because I always come back to the question, how do we change that? How do we change that willingness? Because you're talking about changing an attitude, a mindset. You're really talking about shifting a paradigm of thinking one way and then thinking a different way. That's really freaking hard to do.
It is exceptionally hard, especially whenever you're dealing with a tremendous amount of humans that have religious aspects and belief systems built up to tell them that these types of practices are all kinds of voodoo, and they're not. And that's the thing that like blows my mind the most, is whenever I started in this whole world and then realized how powerful it was and started, talking about it publicly, it really stunned me, the response I got back from certain communities that were more Christian or
there was a man
that had
one of my chair classes at like a community center I was teaching in Virginia Beach, and he stopped coming. He was coming, and then he stopped. And then he came back and he told me, like, he was like, I need to tell you something privately. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I'm a Christian. And I was like, okay. I was like, I guess if you really want to be technical, so am I. Like I was raised in a really like strict Lutheran household and did all the like confirmation, baptism, did everything, right? And so there's that attitude of people almost feeling like guilty that they're doing something that goes against this prior way that they've been told to think, and that they can't. Like it was just, he was the cutest man. Honestly, he was just a really old man. And I was just like, okay. I was like, well, you could hopefully, this is what I told him. I said, hopefully you can see how yoga is only going to make you a better Christian. It's only going to enhance your faith and enhance all of those wonderful things that you have going. I make no judgments on people that are religious or choose to be under any belief system at all. This is not threatening in any sort of kind of way at all. All it is adding to what you have already chosen to believe. So, okay. I was like, I think I like gave him a hug or something. I was like, well, congratulations. Like, that's great. But he eventually stopped coming. And I could see that it was like, he was having a difficult time with it. Really?
Yeah, I've had people that I've dealt with that were like that too, where you can see the internal struggle that they're having with their belief systems, with the beliefs that they were taught and that they have adapted into this integral realm. And when you bounce out of that, I know that's a big thing for people. And I really think that that's what prevents so many people from even walking into the rooms and trying. But I'm with you. I feel like stroke has really disconnected the body, and yoga and breath really reconnects the body, right?
So it's like a no-brainer, right? It's like you're taking, it's like a puzzle piece that just fits in, and you're like, well, no, duh. If you have a medical condition that is disconnecting the spirit, mind, and body, all kind of going different directions, and now you're forced to somehow, if there only was some sort of practice that somehow united the spirit, mind, and body, then we could have a easier path in our yoga, in our stroke recovery. But I mean, I say that sarcastically, obviously, because it's just so obvious to me that you would make an association.
Excuse me, and my name is Mindy, and I was just going to say, I find it very odd, like really, really odd that the experience itself of the yoga would be of a religious aspect. I'm very surprised by that. I don't care where it's from or who does it. I'm just very surprised that the experience of yoga could be religious. Excuse what? I don't. I'm just very odd. So I just wanted to make that comment. I don't understand it.
I would agree with that. But when you start to get into some communities and really seeing some people, especially the people that live like along the Bible Belt and different places in the United States, I personally have been accused of being like a cult leader, of empowering people too much, of giving women at a church too much. I was making them, I guess, too happy. They were leaving with smiles on their faces, and God forbid we can embrace something that is so positive.
You know, Rachel, can I interject something to you? I wonder how many people are really out there trying to help the stroke people and understanding the stroke people. And really, religion has nothing to do with it. I think the religion comes into play when they say, oh, I'm meditating a little. So now they think of India or wherever, where they meditate and they hum and all that. That's why religion comes into that. But there's nobody out there that'll help anybody like you with the stroke people. You know, people come out and do yoga and they never had a stroke. So how can they help you? Like you're saying, you went to India and the guy said, bend down, touch the floor. I can't do that. I only have one hand. People don't understand that.
Right.
That's a big problem.
It's funny because I kind of shied away from that at the beginning. I kind of said that like I was gonna take my 200 RYT and just heal myself and do yoga for myself and just, be unseen, because I wasn't in a place where I was comfortable having somebody see me and or being in a class and having somebody tell me something like that and then not be able to do it.
But that's real life. That's real stroke people. That's not Joe Blow that's healthy. You want somebody that has a stroke that can show you different things that can help you, like you.
Like belief, for instance, sorry to interrupt.
I have gone, I'm sorry, I just overtalked so much.
No, sorry, Rachel, carry on.
Go ahead, Deb. Go ahead,
Rachel, carry on, please.
Yeah.
If I could comment for a minute, this is not related to stroke, but comments about yoga and religion.
Sure.
There was a time, maybe 20 years ago, when my wife was working for an insurance company called Aid Association for Lutherans. It's just an insurance company where we live. And she asked someone there if they offered yoga classes. And the woman said, "We are a Christian organization."
This is a real attitude. Yes. This is a real.
Dr. Hessel, why do you think they said that?
This is why, though, it's so difficult to get. This is why out of 300 people, 30 people signed up to do the yoga. And 2 people actually came. You know, in India, you think that everybody is like Hindu and doing yoga and whatnot, but there's a lot of other religions that live in there that have the same. This is like a universal thing. It's not just in America. It's somehow an idea that yoga is a religion and is conflicting with whatever the person is got in their mind already. And that really, to follow up with the comment that the lady just made a few comments before, it really is crazy. It
You have 2 roads.
that association, because like Billy said, yeah, with the meditation, I can get that a little bit. You're chanting, you're hearing a different language, you're thinking kind of like, is this worshiping some other god? Is this somehow violating
No.
my belief? And what I've heard is that it like, what did one lady told me? One lady told me that it was God, there's only one God, and that is the God that shed blood on Abraham or something, and that's the only God that there is. And yoga teaches you that there's all these other gods, and that there's all these, and I was like,
Well, you know, Rachel, I think what it is there's a road of yoga and there's a road for stroke yoga. 2 separate roads. You know, that's it. Simple.
well, and, you know, what I'm trying to do is kind of take this
You're
into,
taking the stroke yoga.
yeah, take it into a place where we can dispel some of those
Exactly. That's,
misconceptions and do it in a way where we're just kind of taking the
but you see, there's nobody out there like you. At least I don't know of anybody else. Maybe you do, but I don't know of anybody else. And that's a big problem.
I sometimes wish there
Rachel,
were more people like me, because the idea is, like Ralph asked, you know, a while ago, and then I got to talking about stuff, is trademarking stroke yoga into a real viable program that is this kind of, you're nodding your head because I think people get where I'm going with this. It's like
Exactly.
a non-negotiable tool that people have access to.
It's just yoga that's going to help a stroke patient. No religion, no nothing, no meditation. It's just going to help you better your life.
It's gonna help.
Very
Well,
simple.
we are gonna meditate, but we're gonna clear up how that is not a
It's going to clear your mind.
religion.
right. It's gonna help clear your mind. It's not part of what I'm writing right now is this really cool part of the teacher training that is like a timeline, so that we can have the understanding that Hinduism and yoga are not like, what's the word?
One.
Thank you. They're really not even that related, other than
Yeah, interrelated.
Well, Rachel, what do you think could be done to change that?
well,
So-
First of all, I've gone to 6 different chair yoga classes, and no one's ever mentioned or brought up religion
No.
in any way, shape, or form, unless you consider oming or breathing or shavasana or simple meditation. Religion, I didn't, I haven't felt
If I may
like
interject here,
Hmm?
Rachel, I want to ask a question. As a stroke survivor and not ever having done yoga before, because I'm a large lady. So straight away I think, yes, I would love to, but then be fearful because I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to. So I think personally, that's also a big aspect. And people might say religion is the easiest way out. So don't always think it's religion. It could also be uncertainty and unsure of ourselves.
yeah. I think that for some people it presents a bit of an uncomfortable, I don't know if I can do it.
Yes.
It's kind of the way out in terms of like that's
I'm already making a fool of myself. I'm
yeah,
going to make
yeah.
more of a fool of myself.
Well, Deb, that's why I say it's
You
good to
know,
have
I
somebody
had
that had a stroke.
done yoga prior to my stroke. I had never had an interest in yoga. I'm not the type of person
Oh,
that
wow.
likes like a physical activity. I'm kind of like
Agreed.
less is more, you know, like I'll just sit here and look pretty kind of attitude. But then, you know, our strokes, which I've heard from more than just myself, kind of push us into this place of being much more aware of our health and much more aware
Yes.
of just different things. You know, I found that like movement obviously is very important to me if I want to be able to walk. And so I have to keep my body more fluid. So I did come into yoga strictly as an exercise approach. Like I said, it was in a PT setting, in that where I was going was like a medical gym. It was actually,
Okay.
honestly, this place is really neat because it's one of the only places that I've ever seen like this, really ever, like anywhere I've lived. It was like a gym open to the public for membership with a pool and a full fitness center with a track. But attached to it was the PT center, which then was attached to a hospital. So it was like all attached. And
Okay.
they had a series of classes, just random classes, Zumba, yoga, other stuff. And so it just so happened that at that time, I was walking around and I saw the teacher and I was like, hey, do you think I could try this? I didn't really know what it was. And she was very sweet to me. She was very sweet. She was like, sure, come on in. It's very dark in the room. We'll set you up in the back. Now, at this time, I had a cane, a huge cane, a Hemi cane. So I'm like walking with it. And that takes some level of just, I don't give a fuck.
Exactly.
To just walk in there and just be like, whatever.
I'm gonna try.
And I did that. And that was the first yoga class I ever took. And I couldn't do about 60% of it. You know, I didn't move with the teacher. She was a very sweet teacher. So sometimes teachers will, and what I found out in India is they will call you out if you're not on pose, you know, what they're doing. A good yoga teacher is going to let you kind of go at your own pace, stay in child's pose, maybe the whole class if you can't do anything else. And so that's what I did. And I just literally fell in love. When they say like love at first sight, it was like, it just clicked in my mind that this is what I needed to be doing more of. And so I just started to do lots and lots of classes. And I was embarrassed as I don't know what to go into group classes. So I luckily had found a teacher that would work privately with me. If I would come in before her class, she would get in like a 40-minute session with me of just doing something, whatever. But we did that for like 2 years, like twice a week. So I went really into it with like, I'm going to really learn this from a paralyzed body and just have to adapt. So that's the way I teach, is from a body, like Billy is saying, nobody else is going to understand that. That's very true. And what I'm realizing is that I do have a real gift to give the stroke community. Like you said, who really serves this community? Nobody.
Nobody's out there.
Nobody cares.
No, they don't
Nobody
give a shit.
cares. That's why I look at things like goat yoga, laughter yoga, brewery yoga, brunch yoga, all these different categories of yoga that they have. And I'm like, why can't we have stroke yoga? Something that is so evidence-based, helpful.
Well, see,
Like you talk to somebody that teaches goat yoga and they're going to give you a spiel about how there's a study that shows that when you interact with animals, you release oxytocin and you relax and it's a good antidepressant, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know that. What we also know is that when a stroke survivor does yoga, they improve at a very rapid pace. Everything else starts to align.
so Rachel, can I ask you a question? How are we going to promote this then?
So going back to Ralph's question, we are going to do More classes. This is what I'm thinking is for
Yeah.
July, we were gonna do like a Wednesday class, a Wednesday mid-morning class, kind of to get a bit of
You know,
going about it again. In the meantime, buy the book, read the book, and we can talk about the book and get this teacher training going, because there are already people that are wanting to sign up to become yoga teachers that are stroke survivors.
that's
Isn't that something that you're planning on doing in the future, generating stroke survivor yoga teachers?
Well, this is Billy's asking, what are we going to do to change that? And I'm saying that we're going to get moving with classes. We're going to get moving with doing yoga, really committing to seeing the changes coming. Like, I'm opening up my books again for like private sessions. Winnie, if you want to get back to doing some stuff, her and I were doing some really cool stuff. Yeah. She does. I know. I've been kind of on hiatus because India was like, it was a lot, and I'm still like processing everything. Honestly, it was just a lot. And so now, if you want to do private sessions, come on and sign up. You're volunteering yourself to be research for future endeavors, future things. I'm personally doing workshops within the community, getting that teacher training written. Ralph, it should probably be going spring of 2025. Keep that in
Can I
mind.
say one thing?
What?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
When I started yoga, all I could do was breathe. I couldn't do anything else. And then within like a month and a half, changes just started to arrive. And I began to elevate into some movement with the breath. And now I can do all kinds of crazy things. You know,
and all kinds of things. I know. The thing is that imagine, you guys, if there was like a group of yoga instructors that were going into hospital settings, teaching this to patients that had just come out of having a brain injury, and all you're doing is teaching them breath, lying in the hospital bed, right? And then gradually they're able to come up to a chair. So then you're teaching them simple spinal movements. All we're talking about is spinal extension and flexion. So if you can't really come up to standing, or even come, sometimes just sitting up in a chair is a lot of work, right? As a stroke survivor, you know, we kind of have like a way that we go, right? We kind of slump over. And so even just sitting with the intention of sitting, you know, with purpose, that's something that I hope to really be a part of, getting people trained to teach this inpatient. And if they're doing this in Delhi already, in India, you know that that's just like, it's rippling here. It's all starts there. It's funny that they think that we have the most advanced medicine, because I completely disagree. I think that they are so intelligent in the Eastern world of healing and how they look at things. And so they're doing it now. It's going to ripple into the American healthcare system pretty quickly. And maybe
would chair yoga be beneficial for stroke survivors?
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. So anything that I teach starts in a chair. Everything. I don't ever advocate, even a healthy, let's say normal person that has not experienced a brain injury, I'm going to tell you that the best way that you're going to find yoga and the what I'm talking about, the therapeutic benefits of, not just like the stretching and the, oh, it's fun and it's musical and it's no, I'm talking about you're using a chair without a question. You're starting in a chair, sitting in a chair. What usually ends up happening is, even if somebody says, I've had people tell me this before, I don't want to get on the floor, I just want to be in the chair. Okay, I could teach 12 hours of chair yoga classes. I love chair yoga. There's no problem. But what actually ends up happening is the person themselves actually ends up on the floor. somehow, some way, there's energy that's created that is giving vibes that you want to do more, try more. All of a sudden, I look at the camera and the person is on the floor. That's happened many, many times. I'm like, okay, you said you didn't want to do this. Now you're gonna do it, and it's inspiring like that. So you would be surprised by how, if you say, oh, I only want to stay in the chair, teach me some breathing techniques, or I mean, you'd be amazed by what you could actually do in a chair, because you can use the chair kind of all different sides, from the, you know, sitting in it from the back. And the chair that I use specifically is this chair, which is a Iyengar chair. So Iyengar is a style of yoga that is very therapeutic, but Iyengar came before all of the yoga therapy stuff. So it's not technically yoga therapy, it's just yoga. And it's still in functioning as just Iyengar yoga. So he's got some stuff. This chair is one of the things that it's actually kind of a funny story, because he first started teaching yoga in India. This is in like the 60s, the 50s, 60s-ish. He just died like, I think in 99 or 2000. He started teaching in a gymnasium. And so he had access to all kinds of like gymnastic type stuff. There is like the gymnastic horse is actually a yoga trestle that is used to support people from the back or from the front, because it kind of comes up to like right about here. And if you lean your back into it, you can get a really nice lift through the spine. You can even back bend over it. You can do forward bending over it, kind of like throwing yourself into a forward bend to just kind of be in and just breathe. BKS Iyengar was just a man that was really into yoga. He had a lot of different health issues, and he came from a lineage of like a family in India that was really doing the yoga. You had to be kind of like an upper class person in India to actually do yoga. Even still now, India is very like class divided, and you're only doing it if you're like the upper in the society, you know, like your average working person, dad, mom, they're not doing yoga. That's like a luxury. That's like a
So
they wouldn't know. Like, so it's I don't know, it's funny to me that
so Rachel, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many people do you think out there in the US are like you that could teach yoga? Here's the question.
you know, I think that there are quite a few people.
Why don't they come out?
Well, I think that
Billy, you're talking people that have had a stroke that teach yoga?
Yeah, exactly.
or that would be like
There are a few. I don't know how many,
Yeah,
but
like you have
many, but here's the thing is that I do think that there are a lot of people that have strokes and
see the
stay
problem is
very isolated in their life.
I think the problem is people are scared to do regular yoga
100%
with a
believe.
teacher.
Well, people become very
100%.
isolated and very like they just want to stay in their home and stay. I do believe that there are, maybe not as young as me.
Well, no,
I feel
no,
like I'm a
I
little
think
bit
I think it has a lot to do with the socializing with people. Being
socializing
kind.
energy. A
Yeah.
lot of times stroke survivors just don't have the energy to
They don't have
socialize.
the energy because people they don't talk to them and try to help them to get the energy.
Is that
you-
even this man in India who's doing this case study told me that he had people cancel on him. One person had signed up, but they canceled at the last minute because they had an appointment with their doctor that they didn't want to miss. So this is something that happens a lot with stroke survivors, and why a lot of times stroke survivors just don't have the time or the energy to do something like this, because they're very geared into,
Wait,
I have to go and see my doctor. Oh, I have to go and do this. Okay, that's taking time. They're using their energy to do that. And then by the time they're done, they have no more energy left for anything at all. So
I think they're isolated.
It happens all the time in this Tuesday meeting and on our Thursday, am I okay? Every week we get people who comment and say, oh, great, I got to be there, I'll be there, and they don't show it. I'm not quite sure what it is, but they're not doing it just to yoga. They seem to be doing it to everything that's offered. Maybe they think it's a good idea on paper, but who knows?
I joke sometimes a little bit about how stroke survivors can be a little bit flaky. We can be a little bit
Well, they have brain damage.
and that's what I say sometimes to my own children. Like, listen, I actually have a issue.
A disconnect.
Right?
Connect the disconnect.
And I get that, and I think that's why no teacher has really gone into this world, because they don't really know how to navigate this with all the kind of like hiccups that you're gonna face unless you've really had a stroke. Now, I do believe that if the more people, this is my belief system, really, and it may be a little bit naive, but the more that people see stuff like this and hear people like us having these conversations, people are going to come out of the woodwork. Like literally, people that have been living with something. I actually met a couple young girls. This was years ago, before I even had any of this yoga stuff going. I think this was like 2 or 3 years right after my stroke. They were very young, 19, 20-year-old women that had had strokes as babies. This is a whole nother population of people that are living with lifelong disabilities, of having something from in vitro or being born. And to answer your question, I feel like, Billy, people are hiding. A lot of people are hiding in isolation, feeling like they're embarrassed. They don't know what to do. They don't really want to do continuous ongoing PT to not see results, or to get dismissed from your insurance and them tell you that you can't do any more visits anyways. And then people just go home. And the rate of like depression, stroke, it's like,
Rachel, you have to have the want. You don't have the want, you're all done. Plain and simple.
Well, and it sounds like maybe this needs to get addressed along with training people.
Yeah, you have to have the want. You have to want to get better. You want to have to learn a little something. You have to have the want. If you don't have the want, just go in the corner and just leave us alone.
I think it's a little bit deeper than that too, because there are so many people out here in the world that give up.
You know why?
And especially whenever you have a hit like this, it's going to make it easier to give up because you have an excuse. You can blame, you have a spot to blame.
But if you do that, Angelina, you were that way before you had the stroke.
Well,
for sure. I think they say it's like 1% of people that will face challenges. I mean, it's such a small percentage of people that actually will face those challenges, let those challenges beat them down, and then get back up and reface them again, and do it 15 times if they had to be able to elevate. My God, I just recently, within the last probably 4 months, I'm over 5 years deep into this, I just recently started to be able to lift my leg to the side.
But you know why?
And it looks horrible.
No, but
I keep doing it because I know it's about repetition. I know it's about I know it's about setting this in and finding that way to set these movements into my body has all been taught to me. Rachel's one of the people that I work with weekly.
You have, but see, Angelina,
This woman knows exactly what she's
Angelina,
doing. I'm sorry, Billy.
You have the want. You have the want. If you don't
Yeah,
have
at
the
this
want,
point, I'm not going to stop.
No,
It
yeah,
is-
yeah, exactly.
very
If you don't
hard
have the
to-
want,
Well,
yeah.
my
Okay.
experience is you can't help everybody. You can only help people that want to help themselves.
That's in life.
That's why, the number will probably be very small. I'm looking for
Yeah.
the teacher training. What I'm looking for is at least 10 people.
If you take Angelia's number of take Angelia's 1%, there's 7.6 million stroke
okay, so
survivors
what's
out there. 71% is 76,000 people. You can't train 76,000 people for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
So
Well,
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'm in.
seems to me that the solution has got to be to get people over this fear, or whatever you want to call it, reluctance or whatever, because until you do, they're not going to take yoga. Until they do, they're not going to take yoga, see the benefits, and possibly want to become a teacher to bring it to other people. So it's kind of like, well, it's
very tiered system that I have in my mind that makes, I promise you all, it makes very good sense up here. What I'm trying to do now is convey it to all y'all and get y'all to, because it really, it's so hard to maintain hope after a stroke and stay positive. And what I'm finding is that it's like us up against the system, right? Of this system of negativity that is telling us things like, you're never going to get any better. You might as well just accept where you are, take all these different medications, contact me in another year and we'll do a surgery, da 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 da. And then you're just spiraling into more of that, like, and I get it. I totally get how this is so hard and how it takes a lot of guts to pick yourself up and go into a yoga class. I personally kind of have like I don't give a crap attitude with a lot of things, especially since my stroke. So going into yoga classes for me was kind of fun to kind of like fuck with people a little bit, like right next to them and like seeing them like looking at me, and like I kind of get a kick out of that, like
It goes back to socializing with people and talking to them and being kind and letting them know that you give a shit about them. That's the difference.
Well, and it really is. This is what I see as our opportunity to educate those folks on what we're going through. Like, we can only be this, like, nobody is helping us for so long until we just say, you know what, fuck that. We're going to help ourselves. We're going to make a stand and go in. And this is how I see it in terms of yoga and really shifting the whole paradigm of thought outside of the mainstream path of doing this and doing this and doing this, but actually having the guts to explore this. The way that I see that happening is to really generate a lot of positive energy around this. The more people that are doing something, the more likely you are going to be able to try it. You are going to want to try it. The more success that you see with those people trying it, the more you're going to be like, maybe I could try it. So
I'm doing all I can to try and spread the word.
Right, Ralph. And that's what I tell people is like, we need to be louder as a community. We need to be louder and be, I maybe about 6 or 7 years ago had kind of a yucky experience at a yoga studio. But other than that, I have not really had bad receptions from yoga teachers or yoga students. So I really feel like getting out there is something that stroke survivors need to not be fearful of doing, being seen. And my hope is that, okay, I understand it's off-putting, so to speak, to just call a yoga studio. go into a yoga studio, start working with a teacher that, like I said, is more than likely 25, has a perfect little body and is going to show you some forward bending and some cool things that you can probably not actually be able to do. But I'm saying my job, or what I consider my job, is to kind of bridge that gap, is to go with people into yoga studios if they want to go into yoga studios, bring people into places where they feel more confident. I will tell you, the number one thing that yoga has given me is not anything that is muscular or even anything that is neurological. It's confidence. It's confidence of being able to just walk into somewhere and start talking to people and be like, listen, this is what I have going on. Don't mind me. Like, I'm just going to be here doing my thing. And getting myself, that's part of what I do, is getting myself, like just this past weekend, I did an Iyengar immersion whole thing, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the teachers were just like continually saying that they were like so impressed with the way that I was moving. And a lot of the adaptations that I do are beneficial for seniors that haven't even had strokes. So we're looking at populations of people that are just kind of sort of feeling like they don't know how to access this practice. They don't know how to get into it. Using a chair. I cannot say this enough to people. If you are going to do a yoga class, use a chair. Use a chair. Find a chair yoga YouTube. There's probably a million out there. And start with something really simple of just like chair asana, chair yoga for a half an hour or something, and see if you like it. See what it. I tell people, like, my job is more to facilitate you going out and doing this for yourself, because that's how I believe we're going to shift this whole way of thinking, is to get people thinking for themselves. We wrote this book as a way to really present information. In order to get all the information from that book, you'd have to read like five different books, take a 200-hour training, piece together all this information. I put it all in one book. Here you go. Here's the basic.
Could I ask a question here?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Now, there are only so many hours in a day. Would it be wiser for a stroke survivor to go to a 1-hour session of physical therapy or 1 hour of yoga?
Well, I personally would say that yoga would be way more beneficial.
Dr. Hensler, isn't therapy the same as yoga? They have you doing your lifts of your arm. They have you doing walking. So yoga is basically the same, but in a different intensity.
No, they're both very different.
You think so? What is your therapy with the needles is different, but a therapy doctor, a therapy teacher teaches you different movements.
My physical therapy allows for my synergy paths to be reset. The yoga deepens the pathway, if that makes any sense.
You mean
like
movement?
the yoga? No, because they put you into these holds, the positional holds, for periods of time and have you breathe that out, which therefore it will affect not just the surface layers. My PT doesn't ever put me in a hold for any length of time and tells me to hold it and breathe it out. I think he's done that maybe once or twice just to help me identify the line of my body, the straight line of my body. But when I'm in a yoga session, it is as though the communication that is occurring within the position not just hits my body on the surface layer, it actually gets multi-level depth into my body, where it's affecting my fascia, and that actual release of that, the trauma, the release of that energy, whatever you need to call it, happens. You can physically feel it.
I love that explanation so much, Angelia. I'm glad you answer that because I wasn't
You
quite
see,
sure how to answer
it
that.
goes all back to teaching.
And Billy, I swear, I'm not just doing this to like plug my own book, but if
No,
you get my book and if you read it, you will understand the difference between physical
No, I
therapy
understand that, but what
and
I'm saying to
Because-
you, it all comes back to teaching.
It's
Teaching your therapy teacher, teaching your yoga, having them merge together as
it's
one.
yoga. In all honesty, what physical therapists do a lot of times is yoga. They're taking these movements, they're calling it something else. They're distorting it away from the actual breathing patterns that you're supposed to be using it. And they're kind of separating it out and just doing like, you know, exercises. That's how they make their money through insurance companies. Yoga
Repetition.
is something very different. You're going into what subtle stroke, the reason why the name of the book is Subtle Stroke is because I'm talking about the subtle body. I'm not talking about the physical gross matter that is your body, your heart, your lungs, your organs. I'm talking about the subtle layers. And again, not a plug for my book, but I talk very much about how the subtlety of our bodies is missing from that. To me is what is missing from the medical community in general, because it's all about energy. What the medical community does not acknowledge is that our bodies are energy. They're energy systems. It's an ecosystem. It's a moving, breathing, cycling system. This is what medicine chose, for whatever reason, I don't know, to bypass. I personally think it's kind of because it's too hard to explain. Medicine is very, you know, it's this and this and this. This world is very like,
No, you know what medicine is? It's all money. It's all
well,
money.
and then there's that,
It's all about drugs. It's
aspect.
all about, as soon as you have a stroke, I want to put you on a statin. That's right away. Oh, you had a stroke? You're going on a statin. Oh, you had this? You're going to do this. It's all about the dollar. They don't want you to get, you know, bottom line is they don't want you to get better because you know why? They'll be out of business.
Well, and that's the thing really, is that my mode of thinking is, how do you compete with a system like that? Well, you really fucking can't. But what
You
you
don't.
can do,
You don't. You offer an
can't.
alternative.
no, but what you can do is you can start to educate folks on the fact that their body is an energetic system that is functioning in these certain patterns, in these certain ways, and give people the tools themselves. Say fuck the system. They can do what they want to do. They can live over there doing what they want to do. I'm going to take it over here. And subtle stroke, that was not like something that I took lightly. That was a name that was really like, I needed that name. The subtle body in yoga is like what meshes all the bodies together. So it's like this layering, and I have some cool illustrations actually in the book of the different sheaths, because there's like a food sheath, a mental sheath, an emotional sheath, a wisdom sheath, a bliss sheath. If you can say that 5 times fast, you'll get to know them all. But they all have really cool names. They're koshas, Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, blah, blah, blah. They're all different layers of our existence, right? And this, knowing this, can be really life-changing and empowering to start to look at yourself as an energetic system. She has to go.
Bye.
You
I gotta, you were talking about starting with education. I got an idea. I looked up how many yoga teachers there are, and there are 100,000 yoga teachers in the United States already. Have you thought of it all about, like, my daughter being one of them? So she's already got an RYT 200. So if she got a certification in stroke yoga or chair yoga or whatever, have you thought about taking a parallel path towards educating some of the existing yoga professionals that are already out there in addition to,
Oh,
That is something that
In
I'm,
addition to new, please.
Yeah.
New stroke yoga teachers. Because I would be keen on something like that,
yeah.
especially here.
Mhm.
I don't believe there is anybody like that here. And as I said, I've never done yoga before. So if I could, I would.
Yep.
I do believe that.
Yep.
I am on the other side of the world.
See,
would definitely do it if you
see,
want.
Deb, you have a good mindset.
Like I said, anybody that wants to do
Uh-huh.
private sessions to kind of like dip their toe into it. But Ralph, that is a really big part of what I'm doing, actually, is
Okay, I just hadn't heard that part of the
Oh, that is it's something that I have in my mind. And it's funny because the teachers that I work with, one of the teachers that I work with, actually, an Iyengar teacher, she's very, like, I think 20 years plus teaching Iyengar yoga. She's interested in this community, and she has said that she does a lot of therapeutic privates, and she has taught stroke survivors in the past, but she has never met anyone like me. And she watches the way that I move and the things that I do. And she's like, Rachel, I need to learn what you're doing and how you're doing that, so I can teach from the perspective of actually knowing, a stroke survivor as a yoga instructor. And so she this was a couple of years ago, and I told her, I was like, the first workshop I'm going to do is going to be a workshop for existing yoga teachers that want to get more into the stroke community, because I do believe that there are some good people that would help if they knew different things about how to teach this population. It really is, what I find when I go to yoga classes, is this really is just an ignorance to this population of people and to what we're going through. And because there's so many layers of things that are happening in your body. You might be feeling dizzy, you might be feeling totally zapped, you might all of a sudden feel super energetic, you might not have use of one side of your body, there could be a million different things that are going on with you. But what happens is that yoga instructors feel very disconnected from how to relate to this population, so they just don't. And what happens is that the communities stay very separated. Stroke survivors stay isolated. And yoga teachers, a lot of times, you know how many yoga teachers I know personally that don't even teach yoga, that have a 9 to 5, because yoga is not a sustainable profession right now. And that's a real shame. It's a real shame, because people should just be flooding to yoga teachers, begging them to teach them, telling them, like, I want to learn everything. But it's hard to be a yoga teacher. So my plan would be to educate existing yoga, like your daughter, or like anyone that kind of feels a little bit, like, not to sound too weird or anything, but the teacher this past week was very intrigued by the way that I did downward dog with my hand. And he was like, do you mind if I touch you? And I was like, well, no. But I feel like that's what yoga instructors need, is they need to actually get their hands on us, feel our bodies.
Well, the other thing is, we're back to getting stroke survivors over whatever aversion they have to it, because unless they're seeking it out, then there isn't going to be a market, and people, like, out of those 100,000 people who are trying to make a living, they want to know if they're going to take the time and or pay for a certification, that there's a market out there. So, this is kind of a threefold effort: getting stroke survivors aware of the benefits, setting up a program to teach stroke survivors how to be yoga teachers, and then working with
100%.
existing yoga teachers to try and, well, hello there, try and get them to get certified.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is why I say that it's like when people hear me talk, sometimes they think I'm a little bit nutty because there's so many different layers of what's going on here. But like in my head, it's making sense. I'm like, okay, I need to do this and then this and then this and build. It's all like it builds on each other because like the stroke population has the most power just here within ourselves. Just, you guys have the most powerful stories to tell, and that's part of what I am doing and hoping to continue to do is to share the benefits of yoga. Like Angelia, she shares the most beautiful verbal explanations of what's going on in her body when she's doing yoga or after she does a session that now she's feeling more grounded, more centered, more whatever. This kind of stuff is what people need to hear and need to see, that this is because I feel like what's happening is it's getting lost in translation. People know yoga works. We know that. You do it, it works. It's not going to do anything bad for your body. Yeah, you can get hurt if you're reckless with it and you have a teacher that's kind of throwing you around in different poses too quickly. But generally, it's not going to do anything bad for you. We know that this benefits.
Can I just say too that whenever I began yoga, I was 260 pounds.
Mhm.
I was huge.
You
I
were
was a
big
big girl.
You're a big
Yeah.
girl.
And now I'm like maybe 170. And that's on my heavy day, you know? Yoga and this yoga breath, like these types of things, getting my butt in the sunlight, like you have to learn how to enhance your immune system and communicate to your body effectively so your body will begin to switch into a regenerative state rather than a degenerative state within it. And I know Rachel's yoga is phenomenal. I can't wait to read this book. I'm really excited to get my hands on it.
You have to have the
I
want.
get you all to read it too because it's
Plain and
very
simple.
much like good information. Like it's not just
Yeah.
another book about like my stroke and read my story
Mhm.
and like, you know, hear about what happened. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like sometimes the market is flooded with books like that that are just like, this is my experience with this or whatever it is, right? But this is more like information.
To
Makes
help you.
a little
Yeah.
bit of my personal journey. So it's kind of like it's a really easy read. It's only like 140, 50 pages, I think. And
Oh, wow.
lots of space to write. My hope was that it was going to be kind of like a journal or be treated like a journal, because what I found when I first started doing private sessions with people is that I needed to always like keep a journal nearby for them to either write down something or for me to write down something that they said. So I was kind of like, well, instead of having a separate thing, why not make it all in one? So if you buy the book on Amazon, it's $20 for just, it's gonna have a spine, right? It's gonna be an actual book that has a spine. If you want a journal version of it, please go onto my website or onto my Instagram and order one there. There's going to be basically what you're going to have to do is you're just going to have to purchase one from me, because I was told that I can't sell. The way that the book industry is, I guess, is that it couldn't publish out in an e-version. It's also available on an e-version. If you just want to read it really quickly, it's like $4 if you get it on your Kindle or something really simple. But they needed it to have a spine to be a book to sell. So the spiral version is not online, but you can get it from me. Just send me a message. I'll mail you one. I'll put one in a box and mail you one. On Instagram, it shows you how to like send me a message for it and then screenshot a Venmo payment for it. And I'll be happy to send you one for like the same price, $20 for the the book and I'll give you, if you want that. I like a spiral. I like a spiral so I can write in it. The back of it is just lines. So if you're gonna buy another journal at Office Max or Target or whatever, this might be a nice substitute. There's also a lot of really cool pictures in it. I like to show these off because I think they're really cute. Like at the end of the chapter, there's just some cool illustrations that are nice visuals to kind of have. And then, like I said, there are some really cool pictures of, like this one. This is where we talk about the energy in your body, right? Because it's the Ida and the Pingala. So when we talk about because I feel like some of this stuff kind of gets like glossed over. Like people will say, oh, well, our bodies are energy, they're energy systems, and just expect you to like accept that and believe that just as it is. When really it's kind of like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? I don't know what that, like, I don't know what, and so this is a very, if you choose to believe this or not, I guess I could already hear people saying, well, this is like, it's not really real, but when we speak about energy and the energetic systems and flows in the body, we're talking about the Ida and the Pingala. Those are the major nadis. You have nadis that run through your body that are like little rivers that basically are the nerves. Now, I've heard people say that they're not technically the nerves because the nadis are, it's like medicine, the nerves are like the cord, right? You have an electrical cord. This is a nerve, right? There's no word in the medical system that defines what is inside of this. What is inside? What is running through the nerve? What is it?
Energy.
Signals.
What?
Signals.
Signals. Well, that's what they say is that it's a signal. It's a signal that's going. But
Electricity.
Right. Well, still, if you have an inquisitive mind, you wonder, what is the signal? What is it? What is it? It's an impulse.
An electrical, it's electrical current running through each nerve.
Okay. So
Energy.
then we get into the electricity of the body. And so the word nadi, I've heard yoga people say, don't say nadi is a nerve, because a nerve is a disrespectful term, like for what actually is in there. Like, because it's a river, it's something that's flowing through your body, moving through. It's some substance that is the nadi, right? That you have a central line, and then you have two that circle, which I kind of like to be a little bit sarcastic in my own self, which is, we all know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to medical school, you get a badge with this on there as a badge of honor. What the fuck is this? It's a catechist. What is that? What it is the central line of energy running down your body, bro. It's the energy that this is why I get very mad with the medical community, because it's like they're taunting us. Like they're putting their symbols they're putting our symbols on everything that they use and then calling it something else. And then calling people crazy that talk about energy. You know how many times I've gotten called like a kook or crazy or a cult leader or somebody that's just too out there. But they can use that. Every doctor that wears a white coat wears that symbol. It's on their bicep.
Badge honor.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating when you start to see, and that's what the book is about. It's about getting us to think about some of these things and getting
I love how you're changing the conversation on all of this,
Sure,
because
yeah,
I think that that's the direct spot that it needs to come from. Is the conversation just needs to be shifted subtly. Perfect title for the mindset to adapt into thinking that your bodies don't just automatically function very well on their own if you're not tapping into that energy system and influencing it with
the frustrating thing
with
about
body
it
movement.
is, yes, the frustrating
Yeah.
thing about it for me is that our bodies are so inclined to be healthy. Health is our default place of where we are. I personally don't believe that anyone should be permanently disabled from a brain injury. You got to be like my mindset is you got to be shitting me. Like that could not possibly happen. Do you know how rapidly your brain is moving? How many brain waves you have going? How much is going on there? If facilitated in the proper way, nobody should ever live with a disability from a brain injury. I stand like I will say that again and again and again, and that's coming from somebody that has a permanently damaged hand. So I understand what it's like to be up against this. You can't do this kind of attitude of, you know, it's hard. It's hard, but it's like, okay, what do we continue to do? Right? And changing that mindset is like Angelia is saying, is that you have to start considering your body as a system and changing these conversations from how can somebody help me to what can I do to help myself? And really, how can I educate myself about, I mean, here's the thing is that stroke survivors should learn very basic anatomy right out the gate. You're going to need to know a little bit about a shoulder joint. You're going to need to know about the hip joint. You're going to need to know about the ankle joint. And giving this kind of education so that you know, why is my foot dropping like that? Why is my foot doing that again and again and again? And the medical community will tell you something like, well, if you reconnect 100,000 times, you can recreate a new pathway or something, right? And so then you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I got to do 100,000 of these things, 100,000. Like, okay, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna do like what kind of mental space does that put you in? You're like thinking like, well shit, okay, there's 10. Like maybe if I sat here for another like 1,000 hours, I could do 100,000. But it just seems like this totally separate thing that like healing is so outside of yourself and so far out there that like it's just not
what you're promoting is repetition. If you do it enough times, it'll come back. That's what they're promoting.
Yes, I
The same way with Angelina.
I can honor that that is true. That is very true. It's yoga uses the same principles. If you're gonna do a pose, you're gonna do it a couple times so that your body has this sense of muscle memory. And that's why I say that PT is not, I'm not trash talking PT. A lot of what they do is very similar to yoga. It's very along the same lines.
I think they need to merge them.
This is what I believe is that we don't need to say one is good or one is bad or one is better.
Merge it.
We just need to merge them together and get PTs into this mode.
It's like being on a soda fountain, making Coca-Cola with seltzer water and Coke. You merge it and you have a soda. That's what you want to do. Very simple. You know, it's so simple, it's stupid.
It's so that's what it is, really, is it's so simple it's stupid because it's literally like I just loved what Angelia said so much because you might have a PT session where you're doing like repetitious exercises, right? And it's valuable. You're gaining muscle memory, you're gaining muscle mass, you're doing all this stuff. But when you come into a private yoga session, you're going to get so much deeper into the body. You're going to access so many more deeper places and get, I don't want to say better, because it's just different. It's just a different, stroke survivors deserve all the access they can get into any sort of, hey, acupuncture, hey, needling, dry needling, hey, massage therapy. I personally do a lot of like Thai massage and different like things that I could go into that whole world, but I'm a yoga teacher, so I stick with yoga and just really believe that people should have private access to yoga. Like I see it as something that, like, when you're leaving the hospital, you have an opportunity to do yoga, and then you have a follow-up opportunity to like find yoga in your community, in you when you go home, because that's the biggest thing is you go home and what do? You get online and you connect with people online. Now I hear more and more from people.
It all goes back to the want. You have to want it. Angelina, if you didn't want it, you wouldn't be better. You'd be in a corner.
I don't know if it's a spot of like, listen, I want this like more than anything. I don't know if that's what it is though. I stand in a spot where I have worked too hard at this point to get my body into a place of connection that I am not willing to give up and walk away from myself.
That's called want.
You're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Want.
I get what you're saying though, because in Billy's, from the way that Billy's saying it, it kind of makes it seems like it's the person's,
like I say,
like I have a desire to go out and do this.
Get better.
No, I do not. I don't have a desire at all to kick my ass every day like I do. I don't.
Yeah, but you're getting better,
I do it because it's helping. Exactly. I do it because it's showing up in the results.
And you know what? Yeah, it's showing.
You're saying the same thing.
and that's the cool thing about yoga is I joke with people sometimes that it almost kind of becomes addictive, because you start to see such real effects of it in your life and on your body that all of a sudden you're like, I know I can get a little bit like obsessed, like I'll go on like a whole month retreat and just do yoga. Like
right.
I can get a little carried away with it because it is such a like, it just makes you feel so good.
Yeah.
I would say doing yoga with someone like myself. If you go into a standard yoga class or find some YouTube yoga, whatever, you might end up feeling like worse about yourself. just like a warning. You might be like, well, shit, now I can't do yoga. But that's not the kind of I'm talking about. I'm talking about a very personalized approach.
It goes back to the yoga plus the interaction, the talking, the care. That's a big part of it.
I love that, Billy. I love that because it is
part of it.
It is like yoga is like the physical therapy, but it's like physical therapy movements combined with like compassion, care, and love and education about your body, and all of that wrapped into one class. So it's like, and specifically this stroke yoga stuff is for stroke survivors. So if you are a stroke survivor, you have had a stroke, you are likely familiar with words like foot drop, tone, spasticity, brain fog, vertigo, dizziness, whatever. These are things that, you know, sometimes still my body just like, it makes me laugh all the time because I'm like, I have vertigo, or I had vertigo really bad, like really bad. And like nothing could like help it. And it just it drives me crazy because I'm talking about like silly stuff. Like you're in a parking garage on the second level. You're at a mall. I can't even go on the second level of a mall because my body, I get like, it's bad. Like I'll like throw up. Like, I get really like off-putting. But I will tell you that since I started doing inversions, head standing, shoulder standing, getting my body upside down, I've been able to really hone in on what I think is kind of causing it and balance out my vestibular system, I believe is what it's called, and get to a place where I can be more steady. There's like this staircase that I go and kind of practice at. It's like a see-through graded staircase that I could never walk on. And then all of a sudden it just like went away and I'm able to like walk on it. But then it was raining the other day and I was like having a hard time with it. And so I went back to my headstand. I went back to my little headstand tool and I'm trying different things, getting upside down. And it seems as though the placement of my hands is what makes my vertigo start to move. So now I'm doing a headstand, and instead of having my arms just kind of here, like you're supposed to have your arms kind of here going into a headstand, I'm taking my arms wider and placing my hands kind of on the floor. And all of a sudden I'm dizzy. It like all comes back to me in one moment and I'm like, whoosh, the dizziness comes in and all I do is stay there. And somehow that like, I just had it happen to me this weekend at this workshop that I was doing. And so this, when you say this, what I'm saying is that when you start to see real life examples of this helping your life, like, okay, now I can go walk on the second story of a mall. Now I can go up to a second story of a parking garage and look down and not feel like I'm going to throw up. When you start having those real, wow, this is something that I really barely had to pay any money for. Something that I didn't need to buy anything really to do. Okay, I'm using a yoga mat, but like I'm using that for other things and like my kids use it. It's like a family thing. So that was one expense, but it's like to have something like that that is virtually free, helping with so many different things, it kind of becomes like a no-brainer. Like, well, I'm going to do this no matter if I want to or not. The want sometimes is not there. Sometimes I don't want to even like get up, right? Like you don't want to, but you know, okay, I'm going to start to feel better when I start moving. I'm going to start to this, I'm going to that. And then like, I kind of say that like, in the book that like it's really neat that our bodies have these little like trigger points that almost like remind us that things need our attention. You know, like I get a really icky feeling in the back of my shoulder when I don't do what I'm supposed to do to keep because my shoulder is frozen. And so once in a while I'll get like a really painful bout of something in there. And I don't take it as like, oh shit, my body is so stupid. Why is it doing this? I take it as like, how neat is it that my body is reminding me that I need to go and I need to move and I need to do it. And sometimes really the want is not there, but the need is there. And that outweighs the want. And so then you're like, well, okay, now I have to do it. Right. And so you have to do it. And how much better is it to do with people that are of the same mindset so that y'all can motivate each other and y'all can participate with each other and get the tiered system of changing the climate of stroke survivors doing yoga, getting stroke survivors out doing yoga, generally just talking about it. You go to your therapy, you say, hey, I did yoga. You go out to dinner, you say, hey, I did yoga. You know, those kinds of conversations are building into this whole tiered system that Ralph, you were talking about. And really is a nicely layered system of shifting really the whole paradigm of how stroke survivors approach their own recovery. And I think we're doing a damn good job of it. So
maybe that's a good place to end.
that probably is a great place to end.
Yeah.
All right.
You're doing good work.
Yep.
It feels like it's good.
It's like Rob always shows the elephant and he's pushing the elephant up the stairs. That's what you're doing. You're little by little, it's gonna help.
Little by little.
It's not gonna happen overnight. But it's gonna take some time. it's gonna take more people like you to straighten things out.
Well,
More people like Ralph to put this information out there
Right.
so people can
Right.
see it and see what's going on.
So I just saw that there was a question that, do I teach yoga classes that you all can attend? And I missed that kind of a while ago. I don't know if she left or if she's still on here. But Wednesdays is what we're thinking, right? So y'all need to come on back to do some yoga with me for another month of just, I don't even know what we're gonna do. I was telling Ralph, what should we do? And I was like, let's just say I don't know, and let's just wing it. Let's just do.
Yeah.
my answer was you don't have to know until it's time for class.
Yeah.
So then we
Yeah,
will not know. We will just keep it very open. It will be chair yoga, so make sure that like people know that they can do it if they're sitting on their couch. They're sitting in their chair. They can do it.
You know what, the best thing about it is you're easy to communicate with.
Yeah.
And that's really good. So,
All right, well,
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So Wednesdays, if like I said, I told, I think mostly everybody, if anybody wants to do the group sessions or wants the spiral version of this, I'm very easy to reach. Find me on Instagram, message me. Winnie, you know how to get a hold of me, right? When you want
yes,
to,
yes.
yeah.
and for those watching out in YouTube land, I will put it all in the description underneath this video.
Yes. You guys are
Great.
awesome. So nice to see you all again. I'm so glad.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
thought you disappeared, Rachel.
No, I told you guys I would be back, right? I said I would be back.
I said, gee,
That I don't be.
I said she disappeared. She
I
was,
did-
she was
I
gobbled
did
up by
get
the
rid of-
yoga lady.
I did get rid of Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore.
No, yeah.
So if you're looking for me on Facebook, don't be
Yeah.
discouraged if you don't find me, but you can find me on Instagram, and I am actually
Okay.
working on a few new things, getting a Facebook group, I think, going, or a page. I'm not sure. I have some things in the works. So just know, like, I'm around.
Okay.
I'm working
Okay.
hard on getting this teacher training going so Ralph can be the first one to sign up. Where he lives there. Get neighbors doing yoga at his house. He's a yogi.
Well, you never know.
I learned yesterday that he is.
He's limited.
Well, I'm working on a space that might work for that.
I
We'll
think
see.
that would be a really good idea for you, Ralph, and I feel like you'd be really good at it. Like, honestly, like, really, like, yeah, I think that there are stroke survivors are just kind of the most awesomest people ever. So, like, I have a lot of faith in us and a lot of faith in us doing some really awesome things to change.
Well, like I said yesterday, I'm 74, and I figure if people see me trying, somebody 50 or 40 sees me, trying to do it, putting myself out there. I mean, that's all I can do. Hopefully, it's sending some kind of message like, if that old fart can do it, maybe I ought to give it a try.
This is listen, you guys, you each have very powerful stories. So this is why I think that stroke survivors themselves hold the key to changing the way that this is going. If we don't like it, then we have to change it ourselves, right? And stroke survivors are so awesome. Like, y'all are just the most, I can't even stress this enough. It's like every time I meet somebody, it's just like, all I'm thinking is that, like, you guys would make really awesome yoga teachers, because like the compassion and the awareness that is there after you have a stroke, like, it makes you like naturally just a really good yoga teacher. And so, like, that's why I think that stroke survivors, if given the right, I've heard from a lot of people that, like, they don't want to just take a random 200-hour training because they don't really know what they're going to learn, and they don't know the people that are doing it, and it costs a lot of money. I think, like, the cheapest training that I could do locally here is like $1,200. I mean, that's a lot. to pay if you don't have it.
It was 4,000 here.
Yeah, see, that's not even that expensive. It's 4,000 there. My goal is to make this very affordable and to keep it very it's basically like set your own time pace. So instead of structuring like this is going to be this day, this is going to be this day, it's all self-paced. And then we meet a few times on Zoom sessions like this, and that's it. You do that for a cycle of 10. There's 10 different modules, what they're called, 10 different areas of like focus. Like you'll be doing like philosophy, anatomy, asana, pranayama, a little bit of business side of yoga, like waivers, insurance, that sort of thing. But you really learn all of it. And I think that stroke survivors would make really good yoga teachers. They like I said, they have the body awareness. They might have a little things going on, but I think that makes a better yoga teacher when you have a little bit of a backstory. You have a little bit of a, I mean, every yoga teacher that I've ever really liked has had some kind of cool story, you know, a runaway as a kid or back injuries, or the teacher that just taught this weekend, he's got Parkinson's really bad and he monitors it with yoga, and he's like 80, and he and his wife teach these workshops. And I think, why are stroke survivors not doing this? You guys have more wisdom in your body than anybody that walks this planet to experience like the craziest thing that you could ever experience. So yeah, I have a very passionate belief about this, and the want and the desire to keep this going. So I thank you guys for being here and listening to me rant, but I'm gonna go eat my lunch. And
All right.
next
It
week,
was good
We'll
seeing
do
you
what we
again.
can.
Okay. Thank
Spread the
you.
word. Thank you.
bye
Thanks,
guys.
Rachel.
See you.
Bye.
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 Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can.